Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Axion.
I'm Scint.
And we are continuing our discussion of Terry Pratchett's Hogfather and our playthrough of Pokemon Christmas.
Yay! So last time we went over the I don't really want to say basic plot, because this is anything but basic. Everything interweaves with itself, plot of the story. But today we're going to actually start digging into how you can read into this. So, first thing that seems really important to talk about is actually a major plot point, which is to say, the power of belief.
That sounds like a very loaded discussion, especially in the concept of Discworld.
Yes. So, the power of belief, in the context of the Discworld, and specifically in this story, is literally a force of nature. As in, not believing in something means you can make it cease to exist. And conversely, believing enough in something can make it happen. We see this most directly as shown by, this is literally Mr. Tea Time's plan for how to kill the Hogfather, is to just make every child who has a tooth at the Tooth Fairy's castle, which is to say literally everyone who's existed, not believe in the Hogfather. Because if he does not have that reservoir of belief, he fades away. This plan literally only fails because Death poses as the Hogfather on Hogswatch and leaves enough doubt as to whether or not he was or was not there, that it gets through the night long enough for Susan to actually go through and solve the problem. But because the Hogfather weakens so much, as mentioned as also in the plot, this creates a surplus of belief as a force, which kind of raises the concept of belief as energy, as an energy cannot be created nor destroyed.
Only
so with the Hogfather,
reshaped or reallocated.
Yep, which is essentially what happens. The Hogfather's belief goes into the ether and becomes other minor anthropomorphic personifications, such as the Cheerful Fairy, the Oh God of Hangovers, the Veruca Gnome, and a few others. Those are the main ones that actually bother to show up. So, with this in mind, yeah, it's very silly over the course of the story, but Death actually makes this into quite a meaningful message at the end, by giving that wonderful speech of, you have to believe in things that aren't true, how else can they become? Referring to mercy and justice. Things that do not physically exist, they exist because we believe in them.
They are concepts that are only given meaning, purpose, and form because humans choose to abide by them.
Yep. Which, yeah, like, break down the universe and show me one atom of mercy. But people have to believe in those, or what's the point? Exactly. People need to believe in things, to have these fantasies, to be human. Without the ability to believe in things, there is no point to being human, according to Death. And I kind of find that difficult to argue with. Because what do we all have? Hopes, dreams, things that we want to happen one day and believe might happen, and that keeps us going. Hope itself is an abstract concept, and we only have it because we need to. We believe in it because we hope it'll happen. So that's a little bit recursive with hope, believing in hope, but it is a thing.
And it's so essential to just day-to-day getting by that Death refers to it as just not only part of being human, but a necessity to be human. Or in the words he puts, where the falling god meets the rising ape.
Yeah, the falling angel.
Falling angel, right, that's what it was. I was like...
And honestly, that's just a beautiful turn of phrase. So, like, humanity, just based on that, is neither inherently good nor inherently bad. We are inherently human. Which is honestly a theme of another very good Pratchett work that he did with Neil Gaiman, Good Omens. Humanity is itself. It's about something of a tautology, but that is what makes us special. That capacity to change, that capacity to believe and become more. And belief is such a thing in Discworld that Death actually teaches a supercomputer to believe in Santa.
And then asks it what it wants for Christmas. And then when the computer gets it, it refuses to function without it.
Yes, and the ones are just like, how do we explain to them that Hex won't work unless you leave its teddy bear on it?
Well, it just needs its FTB enabled.
Yes, it's great. But yeah, like, as it begins in a very, very silly context, it's kind of easy to get blindsided when Pratchett throws something like that at you, as in belief itself as a concept is very, very important. Which does not necessarily mean that belief in a religion is necessarily important or unimportant, because he uses gods as part of the backdrop, but his message is mostly abstract things such as hope, justice, and mercy are not things you can physically show someone in a tangible way. The only way to make these things happen, and therefore make the world a better place, is to believe that they are possible, and therefore work toward it. So, if you do not believe something is possible, you're not going to try. So being able to even believe in that is a huge, huge, huge deal. But this shows up in other ways than just, can the Hogfather exist? Susan essentially weaponizes this, and also has to fight against it the whole time. Because a lot of the things we see are manifestations of childhood fears. The scissor man will get you if you suck your thumb. And if you tell that to a 3-year-old who does not know any better, they're likely to believe you, to take you at face value, because why on earth would an adult who they've been told to trust, why would they lie to them?
Young children don't typically have an understanding of the difference between truth and lies, for lack of a better word. Also because lie tends to imply a level of malevolence and intent.
Okay, I am going to argue on that very slightly, as I strongly remember one of my siblings at that very young age being a consummate liar, and well aware of it. So they don't seem to understand if they're being lied to, but they do understand the concept of, I know I should not say some things or I will get in trouble, even if they are true.
I did say on the majority, but yes, there are obviously exceptions, and there are obviously people who wrap their head around that at an earlier age. And yes, kids do tend to get a better grasp on lying before they get a grasp on being lied to. And of course, you'll have kids that grow up in abusive households or other situations where adults lying to them is a thing that happens regularly, and they learn to understand that and to not trust those adults implicitly. But I would like to hope, at least, that that is the exception rather than the norm.
I would think so, just because of how much of life relies on having someone you can talk to. Which is one reason you will find, thankfully I don't have this as much because I work with the older kids, younger elementary kids tend to overshare. Because they want to be heard, they want to be listened to, and they haven't really learned the concept of a filter yet. So yes, kids want to be believed, they want to talk to people, And that means if they're coming to you in all earnestness, they're probably not going to be on their guard against things like the scissor man will get you if you cut your thumb. Let me suck your thumb. And that is a cornerstone of fairy tales. How many of the Grimm tales are literally just, if you don't listen to your parents and behave yourself, the wolf is going to get you when you go into the woods? They're scare 'em straight. Because fear is a very easy emotion to tap into, so if you don't do this thing, a bad thing will happen, is a very, very easy way to get immediate compliance from a very earnest audience. This can lead to trust issues later when they figure out that, no, you've been making things up the entire time, and,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Just gonna leave it at that.
And let's be honest, sometimes it's not the adults telling these lies, it's the older siblings who are getting really annoyed by their younger siblings, and... Look, I've done it a couple times, alright? It was funny. And I was a bad child, and you shouldn't do that. But yeah, anyway, more to the point. Yeah, so Susan expresses significant irritation with the governess she replaced for having told Gawain and Twyla about all these monsters who will get you if you do this thing. Don't step on a crack, or it'll do this, or this monster will come out. To the point where once they learn that Susan isn't going to pretend the monsters aren't there, because obviously the children know the monsters are there. It's just the adults who pretend they're not. Susan fights the monsters for them. It's not, no, you have nothing to be afraid of. She knows perfectly well they have stuff to be afraid of. Her job is to show them that they don't have to be afraid of it.
Yep.
So
it's not
the children.
Susan responds to there is a scary thing, not by denying the scary thing exists, but by showing the children that the scary thing can be defeated if they stand up against it. Which is an important thing for an adult to teach a child in that kind of situation, is that you are not helpless. A lot of fear, a lot of the source of fear comes from one of two major sources. One is the fear of the unknown, the fear of something you don't understand, and Susan goes out of her way to make sure that the children understand that they are facing something that is mortal, that is corporeal, that can be challenged. And the other part of the fear comes from facing something that outclasses you, that is stronger than you, that is bigger than you, that is meaner than you. And Susan goes about that by teaching the children these things are not invincible, they are not invulnerable, they can be fought. You do not need to be scared of them because they're unstoppable, because they're not unstoppable, and I'm going to show you that through my actions.
Yep, the children believe in the poker. There's actually a quote that I was looking up to make sure I had the source right. This quote is from the beginning of Coraline, but the author attributes it to Gaiman attributes it to G.K. Chesterton. Fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't read fantasy so we can learn about Hogwarts and magic schools and fairies and things. We read it because the escapism is nice, but also it shows that the evil thing can be defeated, very often by an ordinary person who knew where to look for help. And that's something that we need to hear every now and then, to know that there are things in place that would work. But, yeah, Susan, as you said, empowers the kids to realize you don't have to be afraid of this thing. And this comes in very handy because they believe in the poker. They believe that the poker only kills monsters because that's what Susan has told them and shown them. So when Mr. Tea Time shows up to basically use the kids against Susan, and Death gets in the way, the poker does not hurt Death because Death is not a monster. He's a skeleton in a Santa hat eating a cookie. That is as far from scary as you're going to get. It's very cartoonish.
And Susan is clearly not afraid of him. She's sitting there, she's having an animated conversation with him, and it's clear that she's frustrated, but she's not aggressive, she's not hostile, and she's clearly not fearful, but she is wary and a little bit fearful and very attentive of and concerned about tea time.
But also, something to note. Kids are often better at picking up on what people are like than adults like to give them credit for. Like, sometimes kids can just tell, that guy's weird. And tea time is weird.
Tea time is very weird.
Yeah, he has a very strange way of speaking, he's got his really weird eye, and there's the fact that he was trying so very hard to get the kids on his side, and as Susan notes, that's where he lost them. If he called them little bastards, he'd have had them on his side immediately. So, yeah. The kids could tell there was something wrong with tea time, and Death also notes, I think you'll find that they understood exactly what he was.
Yeah, for all that Tea Time brags about being in touch with his inner child, he clearly does not understand how to interact with children.
In fairness, not all children get along with all other children, and Susan called this one pretty well. You were that weird kid that liked to hurt animals and nobody wanted to get in here. So yeah, he's in touch with his inner child.
His inner child is just that creepy kid on the in the corner on the playground, not because they're a nerd and nobody likes them and picks on them, but because they're over there setting fire ants on fire with a magnifying glass, or pulling the legs off of spiders.
The kid that even the bully's afraid to cross.
Yep, not because he's scared of them, but because the kid is weird and he doesn't know how he'll respond.
Which is a kind of fear, I'd say, but yeah, the bully doesn't want to mess with this because...
that gets back to the fear of the unknown. You don't have no idea if this kid is going to run away scared from you, fight back, pull a knife.
Yep. But anyway, enough on tea time, I think, because you kind of talked him into the ground. In our notes for this, I do have something else to say on the power of belief, and how the power of belief and wanting to believe in things that aren't true to make them happen is a double-edged sword. Because on the one hand, you can come up with things such as, mercy is not a tangible concept, so you must believe in it to make it real. The dark side of that is conspiracy theorists.
Oh boy.
Because think about it. How many of these inspirational things we say about you have to believe in things that aren't true because that's what makes us human, suddenly crumble into dust when you apply them to birds aren't real, they're government surveillance drones, or other such idiotic tribble.
I remember the first time I heard about the birds aren't real conspiracy, and I'm like, ha, that's silly. And I was under the impression for the longest time that it was a joke conspiracy that people made to make fun of and to satirize actual conspiracy theories. And then I found out two things. One, that's how it started, and then it picked up people that actually believed that, and then all the people who started it got bored of the joke and moved on, and now it's only left full of the true believers. And two, that's how the recent flat Earth conspiracies got restarted. I was literally just about to say that I think maybe talking about flat Earth conspiracies is a little bit in poor taste when we're reading the Discworld of all things. But that is literally what happened, was people made joking, silly references to flat Earth and acted like it was a real conspiracy, and it was all a big game of silly, goofy internet humor, and then it picked up a few people who legitimately believed it, and since good old Poe's Law, you can't tell a sufficiently goofy or extreme version of a joke from a sufficiently goofy or extreme true belief if they're presented in the same way. And then when all of the jokesters got bored of LOL Flat Earth, they moved on with their lives and went to go do other things. And now the Flat Earth community is full of true believers that were literally saying that they believe the Earth is flat. And yes, the irony of this coming up while in the discussion of Discworld is not lost on me. And I'll put a link to a really good video, if you have an hour to burn, in the description, called In Search of a Flat Earth, and it's just... Number one, it's a solid debunk of people who take Flat Earth very literally and seriously. And two, it's an excellent analysis of exactly why and how these sorts of conspiracy mindsets get going, and what the people who aren't just in it for a bit of internet fun are actually looking for when they make/join these conspiracies. But that's off topic for this video.
I was gonna say, you know how you debunk that? You throw a ball. Hey look, it curved. There you go. Debunked. Second thing, if you want an example of an actual parody conspiracy theory, they're spiking the water with dihydrogen monoxide.
Dihydrogen monoxide. Oh my word. I remember that. I first saw that, I think I was in high school. And
Yep, it's very common for chemistry teachers to break out to show you how easy it is to use chemical names to scare you. When, if you know basic chemistry, you can go, that's literally water. It's fine.
And yet everything that it says in the...
Is true.
In the conspiracy post is 100% true.
Yeah, like, it's a major component of acid rain. It's the rain part. So, I don't want to go too far down that road, but it didn't feel right to talk about how important it is to talk about the power of belief without also noting, you gotta be careful with that, because sometimes it's working as intended, and sometimes it's... Well, if we talk about Poe's law, here's Poe's corollary. Vet the sources nevermore.
Price is actually tough in this game, it looks like.
Are you willing to pay the price? I have played enough Arceus at this point to just have PTSD from looking at Glalie, because those things are so aggro!
Could be worse. Could be a Paris.
Oh my word.
If you have played Pokemon Legends Arceus, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and if you haven't played it, that joke went completely over your head.
It might bug you.
A lot. It will bug you a lot.
Because Paris is bug type.
So we have touched on belief as a cornerstone of important social constructs, and belief as a harmful result of misuse and misappropriation. What else is there to the power of belief?
On its own, I'm not really sure, because we have notes for breaking this off into separate concepts. But yeah, I think we've covered this pretty thoroughly, enough to leave here and pick up with another episode for the next thing.
Alright, well in that case, we will see you next time as we continue this discussion and finish off Price. See you then!
Later!